Yes, Prabhuji. Now I can. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, okay. So welcome everyone to today's session. We have Bhavini Mataji, Divya Gaurangi Mataji, Emma Mataji, Mayang Prabhu, Pramod Prabhu, and Jayashree Mataji, and Pooja Mataji. So today we'll continue with chapter number 6, how to discharge a devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami lists 64 items. We'll talk about that. Not going into any details because the following chapters go into more details. So let me share my screen. And we'll start off by our invocation. Nana Shastra Vicharane Kanipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Itakarino Tribhuvane Manya Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Sri Jiva Gopalako. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Shri Shri Sat Goswami Astaka Bhashtini Vasacharya verse 2. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Panchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschcha Deshatarine. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we continue today with chapter number 6, how to discharge devotional service. So what type of devotional service we're describing here? Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. A regulative devotional service in practice. Regulative, Vaidhi means the main driver for performance is the injunctions of the scriptures and the order of the Guru. So Srila Rupa Goswami he's going to enumerate 64 items of regulative devotional service. And previously we discussed, where does Srila Rupa Goswami get these 64 items from? Can anyone remember? From where does Srila Rupa Goswami get these 64 items?
Something called Vilas.
Yes.
Hari Bhakti Vilas.
Don't
Hari
remember.
Bhakti. Yes, Hari Bhakti Vilas.
Hari Bhakti Vilas.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Rupa Goswami's elder brother was Sri Sanatana Goswami. And Srila Rupa Goswami, in his writings, he accepts two spiritual masters. One obviously is Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then the second is his guru. His guru is Sri Sanatana Goswami, his brother, but also he accepted as guru, Diksha Guru. Because we can only have one Diksha Guru, but we can have many Shiksha Gurus. So Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami had written a book called Hari Bhakti Vilas. And Hari Bhakti Vilas, in one of the verses, he said, lakhs, this is thousands of principles of devotional service. So many Srila Sanatana Goswami has written. One time, some ISKCON devotees, they asked Srila Prabhupada whether they can go and study Hari Bhakti Vilas. And Prabhupada said, you can, but there are so many regulations there you won't be able to get out of bed. Because the moment you open your eyes, from that point, there are so many principles of regulative devotional service that Sri Sanatana Goswami had given. So Srila Rupa Goswami says he's picked out the 64 most prominent items. So the most prominent items he's going to list here now. Now what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share the Sanskrit and so Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion. Srila Prabhupada said this is a summary study of the Nectar of Devotion. So you can see this is quite a thick book. If it wasn't a summary, like what Srila Prabhupada in his books traditionally, he would give the Sanskrit, the word for word translation, then the translation, and then there's the purport. If he was to follow that format, this book would have been maybe more than 5 volumes. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada called it a summary study. So I'd like to refer back to the original Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion. For the main purpose, the original Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has got the Sanskrit verses. And when we see the Sanskrit verses, we'll also maybe gain a bit more appreciation for the regulative principles. So what Srila Rupa Goswami does, he firstly lists the 64 items. And then in the following chapters 7 onwards, he takes each one and he gives a more detailed explanation. So we will, for this week and the forthcoming weeks, we'll also follow the same format. But we will go through the first 64, and then we will try to see if we can understand or explain a bit more detail. So let's start then. Last time, we did the first 4 items. Anyone can remember without looking in your books. And we said these are the preliminary items, meaning, or prerequisite items. Prerequisite, meaning you can't say you're following any of the 64 without doing the first 3. Anyone can remember? If you can remember even the Sanskrit terms, even better. Yes, Divya Gaurangi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So from my memory, I think it is taking shelter of spiritual master.
Mm-hmm.
And second is taking initiation.
Yes.
Third is serving. The master was obeying. because I'm not looking in the book from my memory. I think the fourth is obeying the instructions.
Okay, we'll get to that. Thank you for those. They are almost correct, only the last one, but we will discuss them. So we said last time, I'm taking this slide from one of the devotees called Hari Parshad Prabhu, because he's got the Sanskrit. They're not very clear, but I think it's nice to see the Sanskrit. And then you can follow also, some of what Srila Prabhupada is writing. So he starts off by saying Ata Angani. So Angani, Anga means limbs. So he calls the 64 Angas, 64 limbs of Uttama Bhakti. He says the 64 limbs of Sadhana Bhakti, or also Uttama Bhakti means topmost devotional service. So the first limbs are Guru Padhashrayas Tasmat Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam Vishrambena Guru Seva Sadhu Vartanam. So the first one is accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of Guru, of the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada writes, bona fide spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada even clarifies Guru. Some people may say, okay, the first thing is I will accept the lotus feet or the shelter of Guru. If you go to India today, there are thousands of gurus. So Prabhupada is written bona fide Guru, one who is coming in disciplic successions. Pad Ashray. Ashray means shelter. So accepting the shelter of Guru. And we'll discuss a little bit, and we'll discuss much more about later about this important principle. But this is prerequisite. That starts off, Sadhana Bhakti starts off at this point. And then the second one is Shikshanam. Accepting Shiksha, Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam. Accepting Shiksha by accepting Diksha from the Guru. First we accept Diksha, initiation, then we accept Shiksha, instructions. We surrender. And the moment we surrender, then we have to, Prabhupada says surrender means making the instructions of the Guru one's life and soul. Sometimes we may accept instructions, but we may not take that instructions very seriously. But when we take Diksha, vow, at the time of initiation, Prabhupada says at the time of initiation, we accept the Guru as good as God. Good as God means his instruction is my life and soul. There's no question of disobeying the instruction of the Guru. So Shiksha means any instruction he gives. So third is service of the Guru with inherent confidence. Vishrambena, Guru Seva. So this word, last time we discussed, Vishrambena means with inherent confidence that we accept the Guru with no fear, with complete confidence, and we serve the Guru in that mood. Vishrambena, Guru Seva. This word here before Guru Seva is very important. With inherent confidence. And then the next one is called Sadhu Varma Nuvartanam. Following the path of the sadhus. There are many devotees. They have a separatist mentality. I have my Guru, and I only accept the order of my Guru. No one else. That is called separatist mentality. That doesn't work. Sadhu, all the saintly persons. Sadhu, Varma means the auspicious path of the sadhus. And what is that auspicious part of the sadhus? It's the part of the Shastra. So one has to, so Srila Rupa Goswami is in this very first section, the first four, he's saying, or he's making the important point, we have to follow all sadhus. Guru is sadhu, but there are also other sadhus. But we have to be careful. Prabhupada says there's the triangulation in spiritual life. Guru, sadhu, shastra. There has to be this triangulation. What the Guru says must be in line with other sadhus and what the Shastra says. What the sadhu says has to be triangulated with the Guru and the Shastra. And obviously what the Shastra says will be what the Guru and sadhu says. So that triangulation has to be there in Krishna consciousness. The Gurus, sadhu, Shastra. So Srila Rupa Goswami, he's making that point. In his commentary on this particular verse, Srila Jiva Goswami says, sadhus means one who is following the scriptures. And anuvat manam means following in the footsteps. So this word means following in the footsteps. And what does following in the footsteps mean? Following in the example and the instructions. Once Srila Prabhupada was walking on the beach and his footsteps was on the beach. And some devotees were trying to put their feet, although that's not really the etiquette. But they were reminded that it just following in the footsteps does not really mean follow the footsteps. It really means, although you do follow the Guru, as we'll read in some other verses, but really means following the instructions. So those are the first four. There's a reference here is 1-2-74. That's from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 74th verse. Any questions, comments, reflections on this particular very important first four?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So, we're learning about how to discharge the devotional service.
Yes.
And already at number 1, he's there, accepting shelter. You know, in order to even begin to think about accepting shelter of the feet of the Guru, we have to go through some sort of qualification, don't we?
True, correct.
So I was wondering why the qualifications isn't numbered first, and then, or is it because this is paramount, that accepting shelter of the feet of the Guru?
Yes. So you see here it's Guru Padashraya Tasmat. Then Krishna Dikshadi. So in one sense, the initiation is in the second line. The preliminary aspect of what you are talking about, Guru Padashraya, one has to take shelter of the Guru. In our instance in ISKCON, very first we take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. So it's Prabhupada has set up ISKCON in a certain way. Obviously, that's sometime after Srila Rupa Goswami has written the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In our, those devotees are aspiring to take initiation. We all know when you do the Guru Disciple course, that for the first 6 months, we accept Srila Prabhupada as the main Shiksha Guru. And then we look at the initiation Guru. So in that sense, Guru Padashraya is there from the very beginning. And Prabhupada said once, the moment somebody takes my book and reads it, they are initiated. Prabhupada said that. The moment they read these books, they are initiated. in that sense, initiated in the sense that they have taken shelter of Guru, and then after that, Krishna Dikshadi. So in ISKCON, in one sense, it's the same principles of this verse, but its application is slightly different. But that answers your question, and I think your question was, there is a process before we take Diksha. So I see that process as the first line, and then the second line is Krishna Dikshadi Shikshana.
Thank you, Prabhu. That clarifies it. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Prabhuji, can I ask a question?
Yes, sure, Puja Mataji.
What if somebody doesn't have a guru, like a Siksha Guru? No, Diksha Guru, sorry.
Yeah, Diksha Guru.
You have to think of, no, we have to think, we know the Srila Prabhupada is always there as
Yes.
our Siksha Guru.
The idea, Puja Mataji, is at some point in their life, someone will have to contemplate taking Diksha. It has to, it's Srila Rupa Goswami says it's a preliminary step, because that connection with the parampara is very important. Someone may say, what happens to someone who has not taken Diksha then? I won't go into the intricacies in answering that question. All we do is we just have to take it that this is preliminary step. And that means if one is extremely serious about their spiritual life in this lifetime, they will take, and different people take different amounts of time. I know there is the mother of my god sister. She's at the very end of her life. She's suffering with lung disease. And she's probably close to death. But she's decided that she wants to take Diksha. She should take Diksha. And in one sense, we can look at Diksha in another sense. Diksha is accepting of Guru, and the acceptance, the Guru, disciple requests and the Guru accepts. The formal ceremony is what we know. Sometimes we take to be Diksha, but Srila Prabhupada said it's when that connection is made, that spiritual connection made, that can also be taken to be Diksha. We know the story. One disciple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, gave initiation to. A few days later, this disciple disappeared. They couldn't find him. So the disciples went to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and said, Guru Maharaj, your disciple has gone away and we can't find him. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, he was never my disciple. He was never a disciple. So Diksha means two things. More than the ceremony, you get the beads, you get your name. Diksha can also be a process where in their heart, the disciple has accepted the Guru and the Guru has accepted the disciple. That can also be there. So to answer your question, Puja Mataji, it is essential.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments on this verse? Or this section, the first 4 items? No? We'll move on then. So the next items are Sadharma Pritya Bhogadi Tyagaha Krishnasya Etave Nivaso Dwarka Docha Ganga De Api Sanidho. You can see in your verse, number 5 is inquiring about bona fide dharma. Sadharma Pritya. Then 6, giving up sense enjoyment for Krishna's pleasure. Bhogadi Tyaga Krishna's Etave. So let's just see how Prabhupada translates number 6. Being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This means that when we are engaged in the devotional service of Krishna, we must be prepared to give up something which we may not like to give up. And also we have to accept something which we may not like to accept. And number 7 is Dva Rakado Cha Ganga De Api Sanidho, residing in Dwaraka, etc., at the banks of the holy rivers, namely Ganga, etc. So the first line there is Sadharma Pricha. So what does that mean? Inquiring about bona fide Dharma. So this means inquire about Dharma means having questions, clearing doubts. Sadharma Pricha. It means, essentially it means clearing doubts. Now some disciples, they have accepted a guru, but they have not asked the guru one single question in their whole lives. We must have some questions in spiritual life. If we do not have questions, it means two things. We have not understood, or secondly, we've understood perfectly. So all of us know that it's very difficult to understand everything about spiritual life perfectly. We must have questions. And if one does not have questions, it means one's mind would be riddled with doubt. So we have to inquire about bona fide dharma, sadharma pricha. Very important that inquiring has to be there in the life of a devotee. Otherwise, we'll be riddled with doubts. So the next one is Bhoghadi Tyagaha Krishnasya Etave. We must be prepared to give up everything for the service of Krishna, or it says for Krishna's pleasure. We must be prepared to give up our wealth. We must be prepared to give up our property and gradually give up everything. Sometimes when we read this, the first thing the devotees will say, but what about Yukta Vairagya? Srila Rupa Goswami says, we should use everything in the service of Krishna. For some of us, this term Yukta Vairagya is a dangerous term. Because a lot of times you will see Yukta Vairagya, Yukta Vairagya, but we remain attached. Yes, Yukta Vairagya, we use everything in Krishna's service, but if Krishna or the spiritual master comes at any point in time and says, I want you to now do something else and give up this, we should be prepared to do it. We should be prepared to do it. So this word here, Krishnasya etave, for Krishna's pleasure. For Krishna's pleasure, we should be able, the devotee should be prepared to give up everything for Krishna's pleasure. Give up sense enjoyment. Let's see if there's any other notes I got here. Yeah, then the next one is Nivaso Dwarkado. We should reside in Dwaraka, etc. Etc. means Vrindavan, Mathura, Navadvip, Mayapur, all of the holy places. And and the next one is Ganga de Api Sanido. Again, Ganga, etc. Meaning Ganga, Jamuna, Godavari, Saraswati, and the holy places. Now, what's so important about residing in a holy place. Actually, Rupa Goswami says this is very important, residing in a holy place, very important. What's so important about residing in the holy place? Beside it being importantly, the place of pastimes of the Lord. Our acharyas have said more importantly is there we find the sadhus, the great devotees. And by association with the great devotees, that's our Krishna consciousness flourishes. We all know there's this famous verse in the Bhagavatam, which I can't remember. If any of you can remember, you can recite it. It says, anyone who goes to a holy place just to see it, but not to hear from the sadhus residing there, is no better than a cow or an ass. So we go to the holy places not to sightsee. The main reason we should go to a holy place is to take the association of the sadhus, the great devotees of the Lord. Any questions or comments about the next 4 items?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I
Hare
ask a
Krishna,
question?
Mataji, yes, sure.
So regarding asking questions, I thought asking questions is to do with the Shiksha Guru rather than with the Diksha Guru, because Diksha Gurus are not easily accessible. I mean, obviously you can write emails and things, but that's why you have Shiksha Gurus who are more accessible and you ask questions to them.
Yes, Mataji, this is both about Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru.
Oh, it's about both. Okay.
Yeah. There's also, maybe I don't know if I should speak about this now, you know, the principle of Shiksha Guru. In our Vaishnava literature, he said that, yeah, there are many Shiksha Gurus, but, you know, some devotees, like they'll say, you know, this so and certain person is my Shiksha Guru. And some Vaishnavas say, yeah, they're my Shiksha disciple. In one sense, there's also 2 levels of Shiksha Guru. So I know, like Vaisheshika Prabhu, he says, if anybody says Vaisheshika Prabhu is my Shiksha Guru, yeah, and if for him to accept someone as a Shiksha disciple, there's more formalities involved, and more formalities in this. Sorry, there's more serious things, more serious relationship involved. Because one also needs to share, you know, accept a Shiksha Guru, and also some gurus, some disciples also feel that one should, before one accepts another person as a Shiksha Guru, one should take permission from the Diksha Guru to accept such a person as a Shiksha Guru.
Yes, yes.
So there is the loosely worded Shiksha Guru, where we say, yeah, I take, and we take Shiksha Brit, and there's also the more serious Shiksha Guru. But to answer your question, it applies to both Diksha and Shiksha Guru. Inquire about Bonif.
Okay. And sorry, one question on number 7.
Yes.
In terms of residing in a holy place, does it mean in terms of your consciousness or physical presence in the holy Dwarika?
Srila Rupa Goswami, in this context, he means physical.
Physical.
Means physical, but we also know, as Advaita Acharya told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that wherever you are, Vrindavan is there. So Vrindavan is also a state of consciousness, but Srila Rupa Goswami means more physical here. More physical because, you know, the advanced sadhus stay there. But we also know that where the Guru resides, that's Vrindavan.
Yes.
So Nimisha Mataji has shared the verse I was referring to, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:84-13. Thank you for that. One who identifies himself as the inert body composed of mucus, bile, and air, who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image or the land of his birth is worshipable, who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water there, but who never identifies himself with, feels kinship with, worships, or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth. Such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. Prabhupada would Yasyatma Buddhir Kunapeksha Tridhatu Ke. This verse, those who listen to Srila Prabhupada's lectures regularly, you see Prabhupada quotes this verse very often, very often. So thank you for sharing that, Nimisha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, my privilege.
Hare Krishna.
I've just recently read this in Krishna book as well, so I remembered.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Yes. I got it stored in my phone somewhere, but I've never been adept at remembering it.
I think that you would never forget that a lot of people go for pilgrim to Ganges and, even going to holy places, and we believe in doing certain things, but we don't believe in taking the association of the devotees there, listening katha from their holy words, then it really made me strike that next time when I go to Vrindavan, I must make sure that I take a devotee from the temple to take me around for parikrama.
Yes, it's a completely different experience when you go with the sadhus.
Yeah.
I remember when I went to Vrindavan the first year in 1991, there's one devotee that came with me. And he had a list. He had a list of the places he wanted to go to, and he was like ticking it off. I've been there, tick, I've been there, tick. So he finally came to Vrindavan, and his spiritual master was there. So like in 2 days, he went to all of the places. He went to Govardhan Hill, Radhakund, Vrindakund, and Mathura and everything. And then after 2 days, he told his guru, now I'm off to the Himalayas. And his guru called him and gave him some good instructions, His yatra does not mean, you have a list and you just tick it off. But I've been there, I've been there, I've been there. You go to the yatra and you absorb yourself, and absorb yourself really means taking shelter of the sadhus there.
So the last time I went to Vrindavan, I would like to share this story. It was me and my cousin sister from India. We went for 3 days and we went for parikrama. We were living nearby the temple, and in the morning when we went to temple, we told the temple authority that we want to go parikrama.
Yeah.
In my head that time I was thinking they would help me arrange the transport. So they did arrange the transport, but they also organized a brahmachari Prabhu to come with us. And I felt, why do we need a brahmachari Prabhu to go with 2 Matajis?
Yeah.
I just couldn't understand why this Prabhuji is actually coming with us, because the mind is so much material at that time. So Prabhuji came and he told us all the lovely stories of Vrindavan, all little pastimes of Krishna in every little place we went through. And we felt it so spiritual by end of the day. And every day, 3 days after that, whenever we went for parikrama, we said, Prabhu, please join us. But when I read this last week, it really reflected back in my mind that how material I was, that I was thinking from that platform that why a brahmachari is coming. But it actually was Krishna's plan to make it a little bit more successful.
Yes, true. Krishna guided you and we learned. Yeah, that's wonderful. Divya Gaurangi Mataji, you raised your hand.
Yeah, sorry, Prabhuji. Just quickly, I don't want to take. So going back to asking question to Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, I also remembered this one pastime with His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj at the airport when Maharaj was leaving. So we go to take his darshan, and at that time, when my turn came to take darshan, and I thought there were so many devotees, and I always feel a bit guilty to be taking his time, because already there is so much that they do. So I left the question like that, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to ask. And then next day, someone posted Maharaj lecture on one of the groups. And when I opened the link and I heard it, it had the answer to my question that I could not ask at the airport. So Maharaj always says in his class that more than Vapu, it's the Vani. Just listen to my lectures. All the answers are in there because he has covered so many vast topics that all the answers are there. So even if you don't get a chance because he's busy or you don't get to meet him personally, answers are there because what you are seeking is actually seeking you more. So that's what he says. And then Diksha Gurus are always there. They are very kind. So we can also ask them. But this was just one realization I wanted to share, that if our Guru is busy, we can't ask, then everything's there in his Vani. Because even in sadhana chart, it is asking, are you listening to your own Guru's lectures and Srila Prabhupada and other Gurus? So there is a question there also. So we have to tick it and we have to hear it. If we hear it, we tick it. But thank you so much, Prabhuji. Just wanted to share. Hare Krishna.
That's quite an important point you make. Srila Prabhupada, nowadays we've got Parivrajikacharyas. The gurus are traveling all the time. They have so many thousands of disciples. If they were to answer all the questions of every time a disciple asks the questions he has to answer, where is the time for their bhajan? So I know some guru says, first you have a question, you read Srila Prabhupada's books. If you can't get, and nowadays we have Folio, we have search engines, we can search, which makes it much easier. If you can't, then listen. Probably listen to lectures. If you can't find, then you ask some senior godbrother. And then if you still feel your questions are unanswered, you pray to Krishna at the same time from the beginning. You pray to Krishna to reveal, and you fail, then you come, then you write. So in this modern age where, the gurus have so many thousands of disciples, they're always traveling, the situation is slightly different. And, Srila Prabhupada's disciples and Prabhupada himself said, these are ways you can have. But the important point being is we must have questions. Sadharma Pricha. We must have questions on this path. And we must have a satisfying way in which we can have them answered. So that's an important point. Thank you for sharing that, Divya Gaurangi Mataji. So moving on, okay, I think I spoke about the Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary. I have this book at the moment, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, translated by Bhanu Swami. And there they have the commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur. Very interesting commentaries. Sri Madhusudan Goswami is also another commentator on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this is such an important book. The Acharyas have actually written commentaries on this book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So moving on to the next set, which is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. We started off 74, we reached 75, we're now 76. And there's more principles here. Vyava Areshu Sarveshu Yavad Artha Nu Vartita Harivasara Samano Datri Ashvatadi Gauravam. So number 8 is in all daily practical behavior, accepting only what is needed. So Prabhupada translates, and that's the page number 53 of our Nectar of Devotion, accepting only what is necessary or dealing with the material world only as far as necessary. So Prabhupada has given an interesting nuance to this. In all daily practical behavior, accepting only what is needed. Practically in every aspect of our life, the boundaries of what is needed and not needed is sometimes blur. And someone may ask, how do I distinguish in all practical behavior only that which is needed? the general criteria is if it starts distracting us from our Krishna consciousness, then it's become more than what is needed. Vyava areshu, sarveshu. So that's a very important principle, and we covered some of this in Nectar of Instruction, but it's very, very important. The next one is, this is an interesting one. So Yavad Anuvartita Harivasaros Samano, respecting the day of Hari Ekadasi. This Ekadasi is very, very important. It is known as the day of Hari. It's also known as the mother of devotion. And respecting the day of Hari Ekadasi means observing it. And we all know from Srila Prabhupada's writing, the main principle of Ekadasi is not necessarily to eat less, not to be very, very, very strict about what's grain and not grain. But the main principle of Ekadasi is to increase our remembrance of Krishna. I was reading one exchange with Srila Prabhupada recently. One devotee was, asking so many intricate questions about Ekadasi. Is eggplant grain? Is pepper grain? And this, that. And Prabhupada said, very simple response he gave. We are not fanatic. Prabhupada said, we are not fanatic. Even I was reading interestingly, we all just fasted Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi. During Srila Prabhupada's days, actually, there was no such thing as observing Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi. Yamuna Devi, Prabhupada's intimate disciple, asked him once, should we observe this? Prabhupada said, if you have service, no need. Meaning that when one fasts, it's difficult to be active in service, to expend energy in service. And Prabhupada says, he gave the principle, if you by some mistake you break Ekadasi, you fast for the rest of the day in terms of you don't eat grain, and the next day Dwadasi you fast. So Ekadasi is extremely important. We have to respect it. But Srila Prabhupada gave some very simple principles of respecting the day of Hari Ekadasi. And Prabhupada's main principle was doing one's service and giving more focus to hearing and chanting and just minimizing eating. But Prabhupada didn't make it very, very fanatical. He just said, we are not fanatic. Text number 10, giving importance to Dhatri. Dhatri is amla, which sometimes is known as Indian gooseberry. And then these trees, Ashvata, this Pipala tree, and then the banyan tree. We should give respect to those trees. And when we see those trees at the holy places, we always keep the trees to our right. When we are circumambulating, we go around the trees. These important trees, according to Srila Rupa Goswami, you give importance to them in the sense that we pay respect to these trees. We pay respect to trees. And this is such a beautiful aspect about Vaishnava culture. The respect is given to all living entities. Even the trees, Srila Rupa Goswami has listed here. Ashvatadi Dhatri Gauravam. So these are the next 4 principles. Any questions or comments on these? Or reflections? No, we should move on. Okay.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Giving importance to Dhatri or Amla.
Yes.
We can understand our people tree and the banyan tree, but I don't know the importance of the Amla.
No, that means a tree, Mataji.
Amla tree, okay.
Yeah, tree.
Okay.
That tree, the tree, Ashwatthama tree, these all meaning the trees. These
Okay.
trees. Yeah.
Okay.
Not the fruit. We don't give that. Okay.
Okay.
We see the fruit from there, the Amla, but the meaning the tree.
It's an auspicious tree as well, the Amla tree.
Yes, auspicious according to Srila Rupa Goswami and the Vedic text, Vedic literature. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
So even the trees are auspicious. In
Prabhuji,
India,
may I just,
sorry, go on, Divya Gaurangi Mataji.
sorry, because Puja Mataji asked, I just remembered something I had read in Bhagavatam about Amla.
Yes.
And because I can't give reference to that verse, so I don't want to speculate, but I definitely read which canto when Brahmaji is mentioned that Brahma's tears have become Amla, gooseberry.
Oh.
That is why it is sacred. Brahma's tears are Amla because Brahma does cry so many tears. I think, I'm not sure whether it was that pastime of Brahmotsav, the Krishna stealing the cowherd boys, and then later when Brahma repents, he cries so much with four heads. The tears become the Amla fruit, gooseberry fruits in the material world. I will find it and post it, Prabhuji, but I've definitely read it, but I don't know the verse number, sorry.
Let me see if I can find it quickly. You can go to
Thank
Vedic Amla. My
Yeah.
internet's a bit slow at the moment, but let's just see. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:26-42. Okay, you can read it. There's a few instances that word is there in the Bhagavatam anyway. Thank you for that. So Srila Rupa Goswami ends this section of the 10 verses. These first Eshamatra Dasa Anganam Bhavet Praramba Rupatha. He says that these first 10 angas should be considered as introductory limbs to Uttama Bhakti. And this is in verse number 77 of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So these are the first 10 positive injunctions. And Srila Rupa Goswami says, Dasa Anganam. Introductory, he calls them Dasa Anganam, Atra Dasa Anganam. And they introductory limbs. And they are preliminary and some preliminary items, introductory items. And then from there, he goes on to the next 10. The next 10 will be the negative prohibitions. You have the positive injunctions, and then we have the negative prohibitions, the don'ts. So we started off with the do's, and now we'll go into the don'ts. So let's just see what the first few don'ts are. Sangatyago vidurena bhagavat vimukhai janai shikyadi ananu banditvam maharambhadi anujyai yamaha. So Prabhupada translates number 11. Let me look in my in the book. I always like to refer Prabhupada's words, exact words. One should really rigidly give up the company of non-devotees. Those who are Sanskrit scholars, they give an interesting translation of this verse. Giving up from a distance the association of those who have turned away from the Lord. So there's a few aspects of this verse. Giving up from a distance, meaning not keeping close association. Now, distance can mean two things. Like say, suppose we have a close family member who is not a devotee. Does that mean we don't go anywhere near that person? The moment we see them, Srila Rupa Goswami says, Sangha Tyago. We keep a distance from them because they have turned away from the Lord. Not necessarily. One can be in close physical proximity sometimes, and oftentimes it's not possible for us not to be in close physical proximity. But one does not associate intimately. And devotees, we've been studying, what does associate intimately mean? Who can say, what have we been saying? What does it mean in Vaishnava culture to associate intimately?
Haribol. It means to associate with the books, with the sadhu sangha, with the hearing lectures in Vani and Bapu, serving them.
Yes. Srila Rupa Goswami says, giving gifts, accepting gifts. Giving prashadam, accepting prashadam. Revealing one's mind in confidence and sharing. That's what intimate. So with non-devotees, those who have turned away from the Lord, we avoid these activities. Giving gifts, accepting prashadam, giving prashadam, and revealing one's mind in confidence. There can be some preliminary conversations, as much as needed, but we don't go too intimate. We don't go intimate. And including those nice items you've also mentioned, Chandrika Mataji. But Srila Rupa Goswami has given in the Nectar of Instruction those, no, not totally wrong, Chandrika Mataji. Some of the elements you listed there were quite fine. Next one is not accepting unqualified disciples, etc., for the sake of increasing one's sampradaya. Very interesting one. Some devotees, they feel, and maybe we are not spiritual masters or accepting disciples at the moment, but it could also mean followers. That Srila Rupa Goswami is giving a warning here. Sometimes we felt for the purposes of increasing the sampradaya, we should accept as many disciples as possible. Yes, sure, if they are qualified. If they are qualified, many disciples as possible, but unqualified, simply for the sake of, I know at a point in time, Srila Prabhupada set the standard a minimum of 16 rounds and following the 4 regulative principles. There were other Vaishnava gurus who were saying, no, you chant 4 rounds. 4 rounds is sufficient. You can accept diksha. So people can do different things to accept. But Srila Rupa Goswami says, accepting unqualified disciples is not good. One should not do it. It's a negative prohibition because unqualified disciples means headache. And the next one also is very interesting, to not accept huge enterprising ventures. So let's see what Prabhupada quotes as number 13. One should not be very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries. One should not be very enthusiastic. Now, some people may think, oh, that doesn't sound very good. It is said in the scripture that anyone who constructs temples, they get so much of spiritual benefit. Prabhupada chooses his words very beautifully here. Very beautifully, Prabhupada chooses his words. Not being very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries. Now, would anyone like to say why? Why would Srila Rupa Goswami? One would think that the more temples are constructed, the more temples are built, the more people will come to the temple. Why would Srila Rupa Goswami write this? negative prohibition. Anyone likes to vouch?
Just thinking, Prabhuji,
Yes.
it may be that instead of using your energy into the building temples, etc., you should be spreading more widespread knowledge by distributing books and knowledge that way.
Very good. Very nice answer, Puja Mataji. Prabhupada said, actually there's a famous scholar, Joseph J. McConnell. He said there are two types of, in the Vaishnava tradition, he wrote a paper called Institutionalizing Prema. He said there are two types of institutions in the Vaishnava line. The hard institution and the soft institution. The hard institution is the bricks and the mortar and the temples and the buildings. And the soft institution is what? The Vaishnava literatures. The Vaishnava literatures. And this scholar, he says, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, more emphasis is placed on the soft institution, the printing and the distribution of books. That's one reason, because that's a more effective way of spreading Krishna consciousness. We know Prabhupada said there's the small mridanga and there's the big mridanga, the Briyat mridanga. The Briyat mridanga is the books. And then we all know to construct a temple is very energy sapping. One has to collect the funds and construction. There are so many headaches, there's changes, there's lots of endeavor. And when one becomes too enthusiastic, then there's actually quite a few devotees, well, not quite a few, there are cases of devotees who started big projects. Big projects, took loans and big commitments. The end result was they just broke their head, how to collect, to pay for the loans, how to collect. And Prabhupada said that was not what he wanted. I've just realized I've gone over time here, so I do apologize. I've seen some of the devotees leaving, and I'll stop here. Puja Mataji, no problem. Are there any questions or comments? I'm taking the time and going through that. Is that okay with everyone? That we do it this way?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. The Sanskrit is nice to hear.
All right.
Prabhuji,
So,
I have a question about the first one. I really struggle with that first one. And I think in the past I've asked as well, in terms of giving up from distance, the association of people who turn away from the Lord. Because 2 years ago, I met a Jain girl and she was into the universe and the universe is reciprocating. And every time I mentioned Krishna, she would just cringe and she would not be very accepting. And then over the last 2 years, I've been sending her kirtans and talking about surrender and all kinds of things I've been pumped. And last 2 weeks ago, I went to her house and after we had a meal, a snack, she said, okay, can we end our meeting with a meditation? And I said, oh no, she's going to go into all this void meditation, and she put on the kirtan and we all sat there for it was about just over 7-8 minutes kirtan, and she said it was obviously the Maha Mantra. And her family, the 2 daughters and her husband and me and my Prabhuji, we all sat there and we just meditated on the Maha Mantra. And then she turned down and said, every evening over the last few months, the 4 of us sit and we just hear this Maha Mantra for the past, for 7 minutes every evening before we go to sleep. So I could have just turned around and kept myself away and not associated with her, and she would have never then heard the Maha Mantra. So I kind of just wonder whether sometimes it's giving benefit of doubt and just chiseling away.
Yes, Prabhupada, following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, gave a different understanding of that. You're right. Prabhupada said we should extend ourselves to people I think this is more in the context, but they are innocent and they are the envious. There are people who maybe they are not Krishna conscious, but they are not offensive. And it's using our judgment where we think we can make them Krishna conscious. The main thing is we do not become negatively influenced if we try to preach to them. And secondly is for their own benefit, we do not allow them to become offensive. But in the Vaishnava lineage, we have cases of devotees who have extended themselves, so much to make people Krishna conscious. That's the compassion of a Vaishnava. And if we feel that person, yes, they are innocent, they are not going to contaminate us and negatively affect our Krishna consciousness, by all means, extend ourselves, associate with them, but with the primary aim of giving them Krishna consciousness. Not for some idle chit-chat, not for some reason of becoming popular with them, but the main reason to give them Krishna consciousness. With that mood and that spirit, Krishna will protect us, Mataji. So you are right, and that's an important clarification you make, I think, especially those who are coming in the line of Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, thank you, Guruji.
Thank you, Emma Mataji. That's a nice point you make. So Divya Gaurangi Mataji has shared in the chat about Amala Ekadasi. Amala is favorite of Lord Vishnu because they are tears of Lord Brahma. Will find the verse and share, and then I think she shared the verse. At the time of creation, Brahma had tears of joy upon taking darshan of Lord after emerging from Vishnu's navel. So those tears became Amala. Thank you for sharing that, Divya Gaurangi Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Last questions, comments by anybody? All right, we'll get together. I think next week we'll get together. We'll continue with the 64 items, just going through them and a little explanation. Thank you very much. We'll finish off with Vaishnava Pranams. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful. Hari Hari Bol.
Wonderful
Thank
class.
you, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.